Good morning, Knicks Nation. Today is Thursday. It's the 25th day of August 2022. I hope this 25th day of August finds you safe and healthy. And I hope that same could be said for your loved ones and your family. And I hope the needs of you and your family in terms of food and shelter and clothing as well as health are being met today. Blessings upon those that work in the healthcare field and the first responders who every day are trying to save lives. And those that pick up garbage for us to keep streets and highways and parks and wrecks clean. And those that make deliveries for our convenience every day. Double blessings on the men and women trying to help deliver and rescue and recover the teenagers and children that are the victims of child molestation and pedophilia in the thousands. Also, the victims of prostitution and child prostitution. The victims of pornography and child pornography. The victims of human trafficking and sex slavery, and double curses on the perpetrators, the perverts, and the profiteers who traffic in this human misery. Finally, blessings upon the homeless. There are nearly 600,000 men, women, and children living on the streets in the United States. The numbers are growing as we are now in a recession. And there are millions around the world in similar or worse conditions, and blessings upon them, for theirs is the kingdom. Yesterday, some news came out. Oh, let me go back for a second. Mark Stein reported in July, and I put that in the description box of the last live video we did a couple of days ago, how the Lakers were interested in Julius Randle. And they were interested in Julius Randle if the Knicks were to acquire Donovan Mitchell. This was in late July. Yesterday, The Athletic reported that the Lakers are not interested in Julius Randle, but instead are interested in Pat Beverly, and the name Bojan Bogdanovic came up, but they're interested in Pat Beverly and a shooter. Today, Woj is reporting, or late yesterday, that there's an agreement in principle in place for Pat Bev to be sent to the Lakers. In the Athletic article where the Julius Randle thing was nixed, the point was made, aside from the fit, I wasn't worried about the fit because I don't care if he fits or doesn't fit. I just wanted him off the Knicks. And so people say, well, that doesn't fit. Well, yeah, it didn't, but I don't care about that. But apparently they brought that up in the article that both AD and LeBron can play the 4. And that AD would prefer to play the 4 and not the 5. And so they don't want Julius Randle. And then, of course, they didn't want the contract. So now the Lakers are into apparently cost savings. And that makes sense because they have AD and LeBron, right? They're trying to move Westbrook's expiring deal and get other expiring deals that could help them. Enter Pat Beverly. So now you get a $13 million expiring deal, which caused me to think and look at what else could happen. So we got information also yesterday or the day before that the Cleveland Cavaliers had inquired about Donovan Mitchell. Inquired is to say, kick the tires and see what they could get. So I looked at Cleveland and I looked at LA and I came to a conclusion that a 3-team deal can be, it's possible. Now I'm not sure Cleveland would do it. Ainge would want it, what I'm about to propose. It would help Cleveland, I think, but I'm not sure they would do it. And that would be a 3-team deal between the Lakers, the Jazz, and the Cavaliers, which means the Knicks would be out, which I don't mind. Now, the media will portray this as the Knicks failed to get Donovan Mitchell. I portray it as the Knicks didn't get suckered and give away the shot for Donovan Mitchell. As I said, y'all, I need us to remember as much as we can. We're in year 3 of a rebuild. We really haven't gotten a good sense of all of the young talent we have because a couple of things, most of them in their second, third season, some of them, second, third season. And Thibodeau doesn't play rookies, right? Which I know a lot of y'all gonna say, well, we shouldn't have hired him. Well, yeah, that's beside the point now. We haven't. Okay. So he hasn't really pushed the minutes for a lot of these guys, so we don't know what they have. People telling me what Obi can do and can't do, and I'm wondering how you know that when he did drop 40, even if it was the end of the season, it was an NBA game. It's the league. He dropped 40. And so that's it worth at least seeing what he can do when given longer minutes. Which is what I've been saying, and many of us have been saying all along. Let's see what he could do as a full-time starter. Which is why we want to move Julius Randle. But because we don't know what we have in terms of any of these guys, even RJ, he's been progressing every year for the first 3 seasons. Progressing very well. Okay. He is not worth $185 million. But let me ask you. Well, maybe I shouldn't ask you, but some of y'all I'm going to ask anyway. If you're his agent, wouldn't you ask for the max? Whether you can get it or not is a different story. Aren't you going to go in asking for the max if you're his agent? Of course you are. Okay. Does that mean he's going to get it? No. Will he get it? No, he's not. The Knicks don't want any problems, but if you recall, they waited until this summer to sign Mitchell Robinson. They could have signed Mitchell Robinson anytime last year. They waited until this summer to give Mitchell Robinson $60 million. I wouldn't be surprised if they waited on RJ too. They still got 1 more year of his contract. And he can get the qualifying offer next year. They can see how he performs this season before committing money to him. But they would like to clear the cap space for whatever that money is, because you got to figure on the bottom end, it's going to be $100 million. So you're talking about for RJ, and that's just market value for a guy drafted like him, playing like him in his minutes. So you're talking about $100 million, on the bottom end for RJ. So you got a plan for that. So they could wait if they wanted to. That's why RJ apparently is not playing in the Canadian team this summer, which he shouldn't, because he could risk injury and he hasn't gotten his extension yet. They might get it done by October, but they have to agree on a number. Okay. It ain't going to be $185 million. I think it's the low 100 million, 100 million to maybe a 117 like Randle got. I could see that with player options or team options in it. But I don't think it's a question he's not getting 185 million, but it's also a question they got to clear the space. But the 3-team deal that I'm talking about that could cut the Knicks out of the Donovan Mitchell sweepstakes is Cleveland sends Isaac Okoro, Ochai Agbaji, and 2 unprotected number 1 picks to Danny Ainge. The Lakers send Westbrook to Danny Ainge with 2 unprotected number 1 picks. Danny Ainge sends Donovan Mitchell to Cleveland, Patrick Beverley and Bogdanovich to the Lakers. The Cleveland then sends Karis LeVert, an expiring $17 million, to the Lakers. So the Lakers end up with Beverley, Bogdanovich, and LeVert. Very formidable with LeBron and AD. And 2 of them are on expiring deals. Bogdanovich has 2 years at 19 per on his deal. But Beverley and LeVert are expiring. That fits the Lakers. They probably would give up 2 number 1s for that. Ainge ends up with 4 unprotected number 1s, Okoro, Agbaji, and an expiring Westbrook, which he will buy out. Cleveland ends up losing Okoro and losing Agbaji and losing 2 unprotected number 1s, but keeping pretty much their team intact and adding Donovan Mitchell. They would probably have to send like maybe the Wade kid and maybe Sadi Osman, somebody like that, to make the money work a little bit more. If they're, because they're only sending out, they got to send out 24 million. They could do that. But that's what I'm saying. That's a possibility. I'm saying that's a possibility. I'm not sure Cleveland would want to part with Okoro though. But see, the Knicks don't want to part with RJ. See, so Okoro has not been an offensive juggernaut, but he wasn't drafted to be. He was drafted to be a defensive stopper, and he has been that, in his 2 years in the league. He has been what you expected on the defensive end. Very explosive, very physical, a high level defender, even as a young player. So, and Agbaji, I liked Agbaji coming out of Kansas, another high level defender, but he could shoot. So this is going to be very interesting. As far as that's a possibility. I'm sure Danny Ainge would want that, and I'm sure the Lakers would want that. I'm not sure Cleveland wants that, even though I would do it, because now you're going to have your whole team. You're going to be missing LeVert, who hardly played last year because of injury. Last year, Cleveland won 44 games, and their major lineup was Jared Allen, Darius Garland, Lauri Markkanen, Evan Mobley, and Isaac Okoro. That was the 224 minutes. They were plus 12. The second most lineup they played was 108 minutes, where you just took out Markkanen and you put in Wade, and they were plus 23 for 108 minutes. They played well together. So Cleveland, and then later on they added LeVert, and they were plus with him as well. They had LeVert come in once he came back from injury, 86 minutes. And they played him and Garland with Markkanen, Mobley, and Okoro, and they were plus 12 over 86 minutes. So they have we know that Cleveland is deep. They're solid. A 3-team deal with the Lakers in this regard would take the Knicks out of the sweepstakes and out of the Mitchell sweepstakes. Now, also we must understand Mitchell wants to come to New York. Okay, he wants to come to New York. He's making that pretty well known. But, and y'all have to understand, he can't say to Danny Ainge, trade me to New York. The reason he can't do it is Adam Silver spoke publicly that the NBA really frowns on players that are under contract asking for trades. That's why they didn't like the Kevin Durant antics, saying he wants this guy out and he wants to be traded. That's why he's still on the Nets now. It's not that they couldn't get something for him. There was some talking going on. Adam Silver does not like players. And it's true. You don't have players under contract that sign big contracts asking for trades. Okay. You gotta have a lot of cadre like a LeBron to do that. And even LeBron just makes 2-year deals. Okay. So they don't like that. So that is why you've not heard Mitchell publicly saying trade me to New York, and you won't. But he wants to come to New York. But he also wants to win. Right? So if you put him on Cleveland and you have him and Darius Garland, they still don't know what they're going to do with Colin Sexton. They're talking to teams about him. Colin Sexton is an extremely talented player. There's no doubt. 24 points a game. He could fill it up. But he's still young and he's still learning. We just signed Jalen Brunson. We can't work we already talking about a short backcourt with Mitchell. And so is Cleveland. And so we can't work with. Once we sign Brunson, the Colin Sexton thing is over. Y'all need to understand that. Once we sign Brunson, the Colin Sexton possibility was done. Okay. Brunson is the dude that they're giving the ball to. He's the point guard. Period. So I have no problem with that. I have no problem the Knicks squashing this deal. I told y'all multiple times. For me, I have no problem with that. I'm very confident in Cam Reddish. I'm very confident in Quentin Grimes. I'm very confident in their mix with Jalen Brunson to make the Knicks go. I'm very confident. I would like to see Obi as a better fit to me in the starting lineup than Randle. So I'm still interested in having the Knicks. I want the Knicks to move Randle. But, and the Lakers aren't interested. And I can understand why. But the Knicks are going to make a trade. I don't know. And I told you that before this Mitchell thing came. If you go back to June, I was telling you, they're not going to go into training camp with this roster. Why? Because it doesn't fit. You got 3 lefties in Brunson, RJ, and Randle. It doesn't fit. Brunson ain't going nowhere. I don't believe they're going to trade RJ anywhere either. So that leaves Randle. So you need a market for Randle. I don't know how they'll get it done. This is why the Don gets paid his money. I don't work for MSG. But you got to do something. I don't think this is going to work like this. And somebody asked me the other day, how are they going to fit with Randle? And my answer was, I don't expect Randle to be on the roster come training camp. Now, a lot of y'all can come at me. There's a couple of y'all that really come at me. It's in the Randle hive. Okay, come at me. I don't care. I'm just telling you. I don't want him on the roster come training camp. And I don't think he should be. I think Obi should be there. Okay. And I'd rather the Don walk away from the Mitchell sweepstakes to give up 4 unprotected number ones plus Obi plus RJ asking for 2. No, no, bye. It's got to be a deal that fits for us. Now, if they were to give up Obi, I would be upset, but they better not be giving up more than 3 number ones. If they're going to give up Obi Toppin. 3 number ones, throw in Evan Fournier and Obi and let's call it a day. I don't want that. I'd rather him walk away, but I can understand that for 3 unprotected number ones in Donovan Mitchell. I don't like it, but that, again, this whole thing is just not feeling right to me. My spidey senses are tingling. I don't like the way this feels. So I'm half hoping that Cleveland does this, because if Cleveland does that and they send LeVert to the Lakers and the Lakers get LeVert, Pat Bev, and Bogdanovich, the Lakers are set. They can make a title run with that team. Okay, as long as they're all healthy, they can make a title run with that team with LeBron and AD. And Ainge would have his 4 unprotected number ones, an expiring $47 million, Koru and Agbaji, 2 young pieces, to start his rebuild. You can't get any better. And Cleveland would end up with, now you're going to start Jarrett Allen, Darius Garland, Spider, Evan Mobley, Lauri Markkanen, or Koru. And let's not forget, Cleveland still has a $28 million expiring deal in Kevin Love. That could play a role somewhere. I don't know where, but they got a Kevin Love expiring deal right now. Kevin is being owed about $29 million this year. And he's 34. This is his last year of the contract, the $120 million that he signed, and he's unrestricted in 2023. And that's $28 million of money. What am I saying? I don't know. Maybe we can get rid of Randle and get an expiring deal in Kevin Love. Now, I'm not saying Kevin Love makes us no championship team. I'm just saying it's $29 million of expiring money. That could be RJ's money next year. That's all I'm saying. Okay, that's all I'm saying. And he, while Kevin Love is not no all-star right now, he's adequate. He would be adequate to me, but that's another conversation. I'm thinking now Cleveland is involved with this thing, and if they get deep involved, if they're amenable. Now, the only thing that would stop this from happening, aside from Cleveland saying, I don't think we want to lose Okoro, is Ainge asking for too much, which, he's prone to do. Okay? Because the Knicks should not be giving him 4 unprotected. And the deal I just proposed, even Cleveland's not giving him 4 unprotected. They're giving him 2, and the Lakers are giving him 2. And that's why, because of what Ainge is looking for Spider, you're going to need a 3rd team involved. Because very few teams want to give up more than 3 picks for Spider. Nobody, he fleeced Minnesota, but that's Minnesota. Okay. I don't think nobody else that market is not there for Donovan Mitchell to get 4 unprotected picks from one team. I don't think anybody's doing that. And, so you're going to need another team involved. And that's why I say I could see a 3-team deal with the Lakers, Utah, and Cleveland developing. We'll see how this works out. But no, the Lakers don't want Randle now. So Randle is still going to be a Knick at this point. But I still think from the Knicks' perspective, they got to retool that roster a little bit. And they got to make a decision on Obi. And I told y'all this a year ago. We were talking about the Obi problem coming because they drafted Obi Toppin. Obi Toppin was an older college guy. He was coming out at like 22. So he wasn't like a guy that can wait 3 or 4 years before before you see what he got. He got to be able to play because he wants to get paid. He's going to be RJ's position next year. So you got to find out what you have in Obi. So if you're going to trade him, you better get something for him. That's why I'm saying, it would be Spider, but daggone. I mean, okay, this is the thing again. I want to just stress this. Not many players want to come to New York for several reasons. One of which is the atmosphere and the fan base and the media is difficult to deal with. So when you get players that are from New York, that wear the Knicks uniform with a pride, like RJ and Obi, you want to keep them because that adds to your overall culture change. You don't want to move players that actually want to be here and have a future. That's the difficult dilemma. So I'm hoping Obi is not involved with this. I'm hoping, even though Shams, and this was my mistake with regard to Randle. I was listening to Mark Stein. I didn't listen to the Three Wise Men. See, because Mark Stein said it about Randle, but Ian didn't say it. Shams didn't say it, and Woj didn't say it. So I broke my own rule, not listening to the Three Wise Men, got suckered in to this Randle thing by Stein. That's my fault. I was wrong there. I admit that. But I learned my lesson. So now, Shams is saying Pat Bev and Bogdanovich. Woj is saying Bev to the Lakers, so that's happening. I ain't hearing nothing else about Randle. Nothing. But that doesn't mean anything. Teams are talking all the time. So we'll find out in the next couple of weeks. Like I said, Labor Day weekend, if the Knicks don't get this done, I don't see it getting done. And the reason I personally don't see it getting done is because Raw Hebrew, believes that if you start either RJ and Cam or RJ and Q on the wing, the Knicks are going to start off strong. Even with Randle, the Knicks will start off strong. Okay, the Knicks will start off strong. And if you're able to keep Obi Toppin and have him coming off the bench behind Randle, giving him 20 minutes, the Knicks are going to start off strong. Mobb Deep will be full effect. It's going to be on. It's going to be on at that point. And so then the question would be asked at All-Star break, why do we need to go get Mitchell? We're doing really good now. And like I said, there are other superstars that are going to become available. There are other superstars. Believe it or not, Mitchell's not the last guy that will be interested down the road, especially if what I'm saying is truth. The Knicks start off strong. They come out the gate well in the first 30 games. There'll be other players looking at New York then. And then next summer, you'll see what you got. Okay, what's available, what you could do. Okay, but for right now, it looks like Randle's going to stay a Knick. I can even see, like I said, Cleveland, Lakers, and Utah getting together and powwowing on this thing, and the Knicks completely being out of the Mitchell sweepstakes. That could happen. And so I'm not concerned with that. What I'm concerned with is you guys. I'm concerned with you, Knicks Nation. I don't want you overreacting when the media starts portraying the Knicks as failing to get Donovan Mitchell. I don't want you doing that. Don't do that. We got to make a good deal. Okay? Don't next year start saying the Knicks last year failed to get Donovan. No, we didn't make a bad deal. Okay? We're going to I'd rather make no deal than a bad deal. Okay? Remember that. It's better to make no deal than a bad deal. The Knicks are trying. They're obviously trying. They went and got all of these protected picks plus unprotected picks. So they're trying. But it doesn't mean this is the right time. We got the assets, but it doesn't mean we need to spend it. Don't let it burn a hole in your pocket. We got to get the right deal. Okay? If this is the right deal, it'll come together through Labor Day weekend. If it's not, we walk. But I think we'll be in good shape because, like I said, I have no problem with a wing rotation of Grimes, RJ, and Cam. I have no problem with that wing rotation at all. I have no problem with Jalen Brunson, the starting point guard, with Emmanuel Quickly and Deuce McBride. I have no problem. I think we'll be okay. I have no problem with Obi Toppin. Even if we keep Randle, we're going to be in good shape. And I definitely like our 5 rotation at the 5 spot with Mitch Robb, Hartenstein, and Jericho Simmons. We're in good shape. We still got Derrick Rose. Now, I think because of what happened with the Lakers in terms of what they're looking for, some team's going to want an expiring $14 million. But we got to get something back if we're going to trade Derrick Rose. We got to get something back because Derrick Rose, when he's playing 15, 20 minutes and Tom Thibodeau's not acting like he's still MVP Derrick Rose, he's very effective, can help us a lot. So we're going to see there's a lot of moving parts here. But right now, with Cleveland's entry, I was looking at their roster and their contracts. I can definitely see a 3-team move that does not involve New York. Okay. So we'll see what happens, but this is going to be very interesting, y'all. That's all I can say. It's going to be very interesting. So let's stay tuned. But for now, again, I sign off with this. Dom, if it ain't right, walk away. Shalom.